I mean, if you're trying to, help someone understand where they stand as an organization with regard to sales enablement or with regard to, size and makeup of the team, doing a quiz can not only sort of give them some insights, but also give some insights to you in terms of how to more precisely remarket to the audience.
Welcome to the Magnificent Marketing Podcast, where we interview the top marketing experts in the world and keep you up to date on all the changes and best practices to help you grow your business and stay on the cutting edge. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. I'm here today again with Matt Hines, and Matt is a prolific author and nationally recognized award-winning blogger. Matt is president and founder of Hines Marketing with 15 years of marketing, business development, and sales experience from a variety of organizations and industries. He's a dynamic speaker, memorable not only for his keen insight and humor, but his actionable and motivating takeaways. Matt's career focuses on consistently delivering measurable results with greater sales, revenue growth, product success, and customer loyalty. Matt is a repeat winner of Top 50 Most Influential People in Sales Lead Management and Top 50 Sales and Marketing Influencers. And today we are going to talk about 25 plus creative ways to engage and convert prospects with follow-up email campaigns. Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Huck 'em horns.
Yeah, that's right. Go Huskies, right? So yeah, you guys have had a little bit more success than we have recently, but
it's all cyclical. It's all coming back, don't we?
I hope so. I hope so. We've been in purgatory for about a decade now. It hurts, Matt. It hurts.
I know.
But yeah, as I told you before we started recording here, is that yeah, I'm super excited to dig into all these because these are going to be super actionable takeaways. Lots of ideas, lots of creative stuff. I know you're not speaking from only ideas here. You're talking from experience. So super excited to dig in. We have a lot to cover. So let's jump right in. You did send me ahead of time a list of some of the various topics here ideas. So I'll just state them, go down the list, and then let you kind of take it in and run with it. So starting at the top, and one of my favorite ones actually is quizzes.
Yeah.
What do you got to say about quizzes?
Quizzes it's funny when I was thinking about this topic, and this is I think all good marketing sometimes, I think, as Dilbert says, is liquor and guessing. So there may have been a little involved as I put this together, but we've actually had quite a bit of success with quizzes, with sort of interactive content that makes it fun for prospects to engage, to learn something about themselves, but also it essentially provides progressive profile input back to the organization as well. I mean, if you're trying to, help someone understand where they stand as an organization with regard to sales enablement or with regard to, size and makeup of the team, doing a quiz can not only sort of give them some insights, but also give some insights to you in terms of how to more precisely remarket to the audience. There are tools out there such as Snap App that make doing interactive quizzes super fast and easy on your site as well. And I found that these have been great ways to re-engage prospects in a variety of levels.
Do you have any examples of some cool quizzes that you've done? Just kind of get the creative juices flowing?
We did one, I'm trying to remember all the details, but we did one where we basically were asking people questions about account-based marketing, like, are you doing it? If you are, where is it championed? It was almost kind of more of a survey, kind of a quiz. But the idea was that, to give people essentially a benchmark. So you're based on what we're seeing in the market, here's where you stand. But it also gave us a sense for how to come back to them. If they were saying oh yeah, we're not doing ABM at all, then our response was going to be different than if they said, well, we're doing it and, it's sort of working, or, we're doing it and it's working great. I mean, those are different re-engagement opportunities at that point.
Mm-hmm. And I assume some of this might be, kind of the same on the back end of, or the same but different, but similar at least, what you do then, right? So, a lot of these opportunities we're talking about is to get engagement, quizzes, surveys, downloadable white papers are some of the ones that we're normally used to. And again, we're going to obviously talk about some other ones today. But then there's that back-end tie-in of like the automation. So can you speak from that from like a high level at first? And again, we are going to basically plug this in. It's like, okay, you remember what Matt talked about at the beginning? You can do that here on this one too. So from a high level, 10,000 foot overview, talk about like the back end follow up, like what you're trying to accomplish, the thought process, and then maybe specifically give an example. And they're not all going to be the same, but okay. And then specifically, we did this, this, and this. Once you take that and help.
Well, I'll use the ABM example again. Like, I could say, if someone has not done any ABM, if they've done some planning but no execution, if they've done some minimal execution, then maybe you've got some people that are just total best in class. Being able to sort B2B marketers in those 4 categories is helpful. I think, a tool like a Snap app can make that easy to do. Even if you don't have a tool like that, depending on the output of your survey, you have 1 of 4 data points, right? And you can have a field in CRM that you can mark people as, 1, 2, 3, 4. And your corresponding follow-up could match whatever that is. And so whether you are, doing it manually or whether using something like an outreach or a sales lock for your next steps, I think there's integration of data, but then there's also just sort of a process and sequence that you can develop and follow to customize those messages.
Gotcha. And like if you did do like a sequence follow-up, like an automation follow-up on that, and again, I know there's not a one-size-fits-all, so it's kind of hard to talk this out sometimes, but let's do our best. Do you like recommend, kind of putting them in a crock pot, so to speak, and then pinging them with like, oh, this, here's a helpful piece of content for you. Here's this, here's that. Or do you sometimes kick straight into more of like a sales email automation type of thing?
Well, first of all, I really haven't heard the term crock potting relative to B2B marketing. It's an interesting concept. I don't know if you listen to a podcast called The Solid Verbal. It's one of my favorite college football podcasts. And they have a term called crock potting that actually applies in many cases to the University of Alabama football team, where they're ahead of the team by maybe only 7 to 10 points, but like it's never really in doubt. They're just kind of sitting on them. And at the end, they just go for it and just kind of finish the game with a no doubter. So they literally have termed that type of a game crock potting.
That's hilarious.
That's what I think about. And they have sound effects and everything for it. It's fantastic. So I think look, there's a time and place for selling, and I honestly think that if you get an insight into a prospect and you see, okay, they're not moving forward on ABM, but if you look at their business and think maybe they should be, I think the next step is to put a more specific set of content in front of them. I think you put more sort of how-to content or sort of more discovery content, sort of insights in front of them. I think you can certainly put sort of an offer in front of someone that says, well, we'd like to, take a look at your business and objectives and provide for you a skeleton sort of phase 1 sort of pilot plan of how to do ABM. And maybe you've got that defined and in a process where you're willing to do that for free for a prospect if you think there's ongoing business. I'm thinking about this, like for someone like myself or you guys, from a services standpoint. But I think if you get someone through the quiz or through whatever progressive profiling into a particular insight, I think you can certainly convert that insight into a next step that very well may be more of a product engagement or, hey, you mentioned that you've got this and this problem, and it looks like through the quiz, we've identified that that's a real problem that needs to be solved. We solve that problem for people. I'd love to show you how we do that. And that can basically be, it can move you into a demo request.
And are you suggesting, in your experience and what you've seen, do you do that right away, or would you still kind of pepper them with a couple pieces of helpful content and education?
It depends on what information you have. If you've identified, for instance, like if you've got a quiz that has identified that someone has 9-month sales cycles. We're sitting here, beginning of April as we record this. You've got 9-month sales cycles, and you're already behind on your sales number. Like, I think that's a pretty urgent need to try to build more pipeline. So I might go more quickly. Excuse me, I might go more quickly to put something in front of someone. I mean, I think if we follow the challenger sale model of teach, tailor, take control, if I bring someone an insight that they didn't know, right? If they didn't really realize that their pipeline was on fire, and you sort of show them through the math that there actually is sort of a challenge there, and you tailor that insight to their business, so you look at their numbers specifically. Well, if you pointed out that, hey, listen, I know that Christmas is a very long ways away, but based on your sales cycle and based on the size of your pipeline, you're already in trouble for the year. you earn the opportunity to take control at that point in the challenger parlance. You know, for you to be able to say, listen, I'm not telling you should hire us to help you build pipeline, but I am telling you that you should probably do something to increase the size of your pipeline to have any chance of hitting your number.
Gotcha. All right, awesome. So basically what I'm hearing is, and it's awesome advice. I mean, it depends. You know, it always depends. So, you know, what Matt's pointed out here is, you know, if you do get some insights from a quiz or whatnot, that immediately shows some strong buying signals. It's like, yes, I know I need this and I don't know what to do. Obviously, you can jump straight into, hey, we can help, you know, here's how, you know, or set up a demo or whatever. But other times, it's, you know, these are just going to be generally, you know, picking, you know, just trading engagement, you know, and it might not necessarily lead to an insight that shows somebody is absolutely positively ready to buy right now. And then in that case, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, we would crockpot them and, you know, basically, you know, let them simmer by sending them other pieces of useful content, and then at the end of a sequence, potentially ask for whatever, you know, your business sales or what you want them to do. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, and I think to your point, like, there isn't sort of a perfect sequence that's going to work for everybody. I mean, use the common sense approach here, right? I mean, if you've developed enough of an understanding of someone's business where you have a solid recommendation of what they should be doing moving forward, then, you know, with some tact and grace, make that recommendation. If you've got a prospect that looks ready, that sounds ready, but the prospect says they've got 14 other things they're prioritizing right now, you know, no matter how good your message, no matter how good your sales process, you're not going to force someone into being qualified and ready to buy.
Right.
So I think you have to respect that as well. And this is where I think our ability to do some of this at scale runs into challenges. I mean, your database can only say so much, and I think that you know, if you're doing complex, you know, B2B selling, there's still a human element that has to interpret what's coming back from the prospect to understand what the appropriate next step is, especially if you're at that precipice of whether or not you should continue to. We have to stop using crockpot because no one wants to be crockpot. Whether you continue to sort of provide valuable information on a regular basis to that prospect, or whether you really do kind of, quote unquote, take control and push someone towards an outcome that they may not, you know, be immediately ready for, but they need based on the information that you've given them or they've given you.
Understood. Awesome. All right. We kind of, you know, spent a little bit of time on that, but it was mainly, you know, looking at the back end, because the back end could, you know, it's going to be similar for a lot of these. We're going to look for other engagement opportunities here to get people, you know, engaging with your content. So let's move down this list here and have you talk about and give some other ideas and ways you've seen these used. So again, I'll just go down this list here. This is a fun list here. So recommendation requests. What do you got? What do you have there?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't know how much time we have for this podcast, but I think it's going to take us about 4 hours to get through it this straight. So we can. I assume we can. Is it okay if we could just crockpot this content, right, and just sort of slowly tease it out a little bit. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, we've got a full list. If we want to cherry pick through this, we can share the rest of the list with folks. I should probably just write up a blog post with a couple words on each of these things as well.
No, absolutely, and we'll move down this list fast. Now, I just wanted to set the stage for the follow-up email campaigns. And have people
You're just teasing. Oh my gosh, well, we got through 6 and we're out of time. This is perfect.
No, we'll get to them all. I'll make sure.
For those of you listening, you're already being crockpotted right here, right now.
They're being teased.
That's right. Recommendation request. Is that number 2?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is kind of a fun one. So about 3 weeks ago, I got an email, and this is an example of what I think of as recommendation request. It was someone who wanted to do copywriting for some of our accounts, and it was a cold email. And you know, she'd clearly been to my bio because she referenced a farmhouse in the subject line as well as in the intro. And at the end, there was a PS, and the PS said something to the effect of, "Hey, I'm coming to Seattle in a couple weeks, and I love pizza. Where should I go? What's one of your favorite pizza joints in Seattle?" It was totally just kind of this weird random question. But, like, how do you not respond to that?
Right.
I mean, like, if you have any semblance of generosity, or if you're like every other, like, you know, God-fearing American that this also loves pizza, you've got somewhere that you think is awesome. It might be, you know, kind of a local chain. It might be some hole-in-the-wall bar that just happens to serve the best pizza ever. but like I actually ended up, we don't have any copywriting needs, so I didn't hire her, but I was totally excited about this approach. And so I asked her about it, and she said, oh yeah, she said that, I get, for every one person that replies and says they might not have some copywriting needs, I get 10 people that reply back and have some interesting pizza places. And she said, listen, I'm not, she said, I'd love to get some business, but I'd also like to build a relationship that might go somewhere down the road. And, sometimes we build connections based on work and business. Sometimes we build connections based on food, based on college football, based on common interests. And so I think recommendation requests can be relative to business. You can certainly ask people, what's your favorite, MarTech tool to do X? You could certainly ask people, do you have a recommendation for a sales blogger that I should be reading that you really like? I mean, there's all kinds of those things you could do. But you could also make it kind of non-business related. And I think those can stand out and work really well.
Yeah, people love giving advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we heard that? And you have a correct answer to give. It's your opinion. So yeah, no, love it. Yeah, and you can do an email, you can do that on social, love it. All right, awesome. Let in the spirit of time here and getting through everything, let's move on. But yeah, I love that. Great, that's awesome. Serialized content.
Well, if people see that there's a series, I think a couple things happen. One, I think they're more likely to continue to read. I think that, there's, if they see each piece of content as isolated, independent content, if the content's interesting, they might engage, but they're based on what they have past read, they may not necessarily be interested in the future read. But let's say you've got a six step. Actually, let's take this list. There's 25 tactics, hacks, ways to increase, campaign, nurture campaign engagement and conversion. And so let's say we did an email, every week featuring one. And so this week's email is top 7 in our series of 25 things that you should do to increase engagement. Well, 2 things just happen in the prospect's mind. They're like, A, if they like it, they're more likely to want to listen to the next one. And if they like it, they're more likely to go back and listen to the first 5 as well to see what they missed. Mm-hmm. So, I think, taking content that is interesting and serializing it and making it connected and tying it together into a, series of X, emails or X posts, it just, it makes the content feel meatier. And it also increases stickiness of the content moving forward.
And not to mention your click-throughs, right? I mean, if you have these on different blog pages and stuff, that's a big SEO thing. So not only do you get the engagement part of it, you get the Google love as well.
So I'll give you an example of this. I don't know if this was a test, but I just finished publishing a series of 6 blog posts of, lessons that my dad taught me about business and life. And I do a lot of LinkedIn blog posts, not blog posts, but the LinkedIn updates, right? It's just, it's like a couple hundred words and you move on. And there's a very short shelf life for those in terms of the traffic that it gets. Like after a day and a half to 2 days, traffic stops to those updates and it just kind of peters out. And people are on to the next one. Well, what I noticed over the last week is that as I published these and I said, oh, this is lesson number 4, this is lesson number 6, I didn't link back. I mean, with the LinkedIn updates, you can't actually link in the post, so I didn't link back to stuff. But I noticed that the previous lessons continued to get traffic well past the normal sort of half-life of the traffic. So that's my unscientific, just recent example of like, hey, you serialize content, you draw interest in the past content that you might otherwise have had.
No, I love it. And one takeaway here is if you are writing one of those 3,000-4,000 word blog posts, is just to think through, like, hey, can I, provide this in bite-sized chunks as I roll it out, and then you can always, conglomerate everything down the road. But that's a great way to roll it out. And and you're seeing it. You say it's not scientific, but I think it's very scientific. You're actually seeing something happen in the real world, and it's not just theory, And that's where I think a lot of times people talk is from a theory standpoint, but to actually see it work and do it, that's a whole nother level of validation.
I agree.
So I love it. All right, let's keep on rolling here. Diagnostic questions.
So you go to the doctor, right, and you tell the doctor your knee hurts. And the doctor is going to start asking questions that you know how to answer so that the doctor can interpret what's going on inside your knee based on their knowledge. And so I think of diagnostic questions as the kind of questions that actually either help understand a situation the prospect can't interpret on their own, or a set of questions that simply get the prospect to think differently about a situation that they're sitting in. So for example, I think in a lot of time, like a good example of a diagnostic question would be some version of an opportunity cost. If you're thinking about like, oh, geez, well, I should probably turn the lights off when I leave because it'd probably be a good idea just to sort of save energy. Well, have you thought about how much money you're actually spending on energy when you leave the lights on? Well, no, I hadn't thought about that, right? So like, what if someone calculates for you, so you've got 6 offices and let's assume the lights are on, an extra 20% of the time. Well, based on how much you're spending on energy, did you know that, here's how much it actually costs you every day to leave the lights on when you're not there, right? And that's pure margin you can put back to the bottom line. So, there's a set of questions you could ask that create a discovery of new insights and new information that the prospect had at their fingertips but had not yet grokked. And I think of that as a level of diagnostic questions where you can sort of, for lack of a better description, you can manufacture insights.
Mm-hmm. And that gives you the opportunity to do an interactive calculator or something like that. That's very useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. And you do need a Snap app or some other interactive tool builder, or if you have like some super high level development expertise. But you don't even need that anymore. Just FYI, you can just get somebody who has some lower level development stuff and utilize Snap app and get it done. So yeah, that's fantastic. We've seen calculators work really well as far as just engagement.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. New research insights.
Well, along those same lines, like if you go and ask some of your prospects' peers a set of questions. It's sort of a version of the quiz, but instead of asking individuals to fill out the quiz, go ask a couple hundred people to fill out the questionnaire and come up with some insights about the market. What can you then go back and create and deliver to your prospects that helps them to basically, ask some of those diagnostic questions and come up with some insights based on your research. For instance, we did some research last summer around multi-channel marketing, and we were doing it with PFL, and the attempt was initially to just figure out, okay, can we create a correlation between using multiple channels online and offline and seeing greater revenue results? And we did see that. We saw a correlation between diversity of channels as well as digital and non-digital channels and a higher likelihood of hitting revenue targets. But the greatest correlation, the strongest correlation between sort of marketing tactic and results was actually integration. It wasn't just how many channels you're using, it was how effectively are you integrating message and approach across channels to create real momentum and velocity of your story. And so that was an insight, right, that we've been able to sort of deliver back out to the market and to prospects to say, hey, listen, you can't just do this in silos. You can't just say, okay, we're only doing email or only doing digital and then we're done. But you now have to do the hard work of integrating your approach and your message and your offers across channels to make them work better.
Yeah, I mean, that is awesome, just specifically that you were able to do that and figure that out. In a broader sense, as far as new research and insights, do you, because, we always ask, whenever we work with somebody is, can you become a resource for something? Do you have the data? And, getting it from their audience or, or whomever, or their audience, but, and to get, to become a resource, to become like a data, reference. Do we need to get to that 500, mark that it crosses the statistical relevance threshold?
Yeah, that's a hard word to say. No, I mean, I think so we have a research partner that, that we normally do survey and the research projects with, and, his magic number is 200 respondents.
Okay.
I think depending on the splits you want to do, if you have 200 respondents and you want statistically reliable data on 8 different splits and cohorts within that data, then you're starting to run into trouble. But if you're just looking at insights from the whole, 200 is usually the sort of the magic number where we feel confident enough in the data that we have. But those insights, I mean, so you can do research and come up with an insights from the group. You can also say, okay, I actually have a source of expertise that can deliver insights back out to the market. We have a client that sells compensation software. So they have a database of jobs and salaries across industries, across markets, and so they provide this software. And as you would imagine, actually grokking that software takes a lot of processing power, and there's a whole team of statisticians and data wizards that work at this company. Well, one of the very first statisticians they had is like this guy had a PhD in statistics, like super smart guy. We basically renamed him Dr. Salary, so he's a doctor and he's got salary information, and so it became sort of recurring sort of offer to prospects as well as sort of a content offer, like ask Dr. Salary, what's your compensation question, and we would provide insights on that from Dr. Salary. So you can do one to many, you can do many to one. Works both ways.
Very cool. All right, keep going down here. Community access.
Yeah, I think there's, I think about the old Topliners group from Eloqua, where, you had a group, and this was Eloqua customers in their case, but you had a group of people that could ask each other questions, that could share ideas amongst each other. I've seen some companies create a group like that. This just, I've got a group of modern marketers, or I got a group of sales enablement professionals, or I've got a group of Pardot administrators. And even if you are not Pardot, but let's say you're a consultant that you're helping companies with Pardot, why not create a community of Pardot users that can share insights and information with each other? And it's invite only to get in. And maybe you have to sort of fill out a survey or fill out a questionnaire, or increase the level of profile you have in our database to get into it. Anyway, I think there's a lot of ways that you can sort of incent people not only with getting into the community, but provide value within the community, where the community itself becomes another engagement opportunity.
I love that. And have you seen like maybe Facebook groups work the easiest and best for that?
Oh, I think it depends on the audience. I think Facebook groups can work. LinkedIn groups typically don't. There's tools like Influitive that provide sort of a community engagement platform that can work across groups. There's a lot of sort of, private label sort of community software you could API into your system, but Facebook groups is a great place to start. I've seen some people do it through Basecamp, where you've got a group of people with a common interest and it just becomes kind of a discussion board in Basecamp.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, but you kind of get, because the thing about that, creating community, my only fear about that is it needs to be pretty large, right? To get where you want to go as far as discussion goes, and to get discussion happens. And is this your experience as well? But Facebook groups are all the rage. I mean, groups, I guess, right? But communities, and because of the logicalness of the stickiness and being able to, kind of speak to your most passionate fans and the most passionate people, and discussions can naturally happen there. But you also have the ability to just provide value on your own. So what is your takeaway? I mean, if it's like Eloqua, I mean, you just mentioned a gargantuan company that could get a lot of people involved right away. But so do you have any advice on point people to like a Basecamp if it's a smaller audience or a bigger audience, or Facebook groups if that's the way to go? Do you have any advice for somebody, based on their company?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think for the community to have its own gravity around a conversation and engagement, it has to be of a certain size, unless it is facilitated by someone that sort of is constantly feeding ideas and questions to the audience. Another guy, I'm in a couple groups that I would consider part of this a community like this, and they're just Slack channels. So you can do this on Slack now as well. I'm in one that is a group of it's 10 people. It's super small, and it's sporadic in engagement because we really don't have sort of a moderator who's keeping things going. But the group is there if you have a question. The group is there. I mean, it's a group of like-minded people. So we're sharing articles, we're sharing ideas, we're sharing questions with each other. So I think there's two challenges here, right? One is like when you have a community, how do you manage it? How do you make it valuable? But if you have that community of like-minded people, that the idea of that community in and of itself is valuable, is interesting. And I think offering people access into that community if the whole idea here is like, tactics to drive engagement from your campaigns, I think offering access to a community like that is in and of itself valuable.
Yeah, I'm a billion% on the same page. We're just starting to really roll that out as for this one particular company on if somebody buys their program, hey, and you also get access to our private Facebook group, of which XYZ will happen, things that won't happen anywhere else. So I'm 100% on the same page as you there, and that's really growing as a, I don't know, barely hate using the word tactic, but it's growing as a great strategy to implement as a value add, because it's that fuzziness that you don't have to come off rates or come off this or come off that. You're just adding extra value, and that's really the whole name of the game of business. Any business in the world is the more value you add, the better, it's going to be received. It's awesome. All right, secrets, best practices.
What's funny is if I were to simply put best practices here, you'd be like, okay, well, I've seen best practice guides, and I could say like this whole list is sort of best practices and ideas. But what's a synonym of best practices? Secrets. If I tell you I have the secrets to greater engagement as opposed to best practices greater engagement, which headline's going to work better?
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple lessons that I sort of meant to be here. One is, even though best practices is sort of a commonly used term, it still works. Even though webinars seem to be everywhere, like good webinars still work incredibly well. But what you call something also matters. Like best practices to greater engagement, one thing, secrets to greater engagement is going to drive a little more mystery and intrigue and response.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah, I think that this is a great tip, great pointer. I don't think we need to dig in too much on it. It's pretty intuitive there. So that's awesome. That's a great tip, though. I love it. Templates.
Yeah, no matter, I can do this in any context, right? Like people that are trying to get some stuff done, do you need an email template? Do you need a voicemail template? Do you need an HTML template for a particular transactional email? Do you need if you're trying to get, if you're an event marketer and you're frustrated with, how well you're capturing information from people like literally in the field, like here's a Word doc template for getting on-site registration. There's a million contexts where you can basically do the work for your prospects to get them interested in something.
We're actually about to do that for the printing company we work with is, we're going to be building the ultimate publishing resource guide, for their blog, really turning it into that. And one of the main things that we realize is, having these templates for people to download and use are going to be, there's a good demand for those. And if you just got to think it through just think it through. Again, there's a million businesses, so just think through. But that's just another great way to have a huge value add, like something you already know. It's like, here you go, and all of a sudden they're using it, and that turns into, well, that company is awesome. They just helped me out there. Yeah. Awesome. Contests.
Contests, and there's a number of ways you can play this. I think of this as getting submissions from your prospects in exchange for something. I think, Marketo just did a really nice job of this, where they were, it's sort of a contest, but also sort of a recognition thing. Hey, I think recognition campaigns could be number 26 on this list, I guess. But I think of, what Marketo's doing to try to come up with the list of what they call the Fearless 50. So the theme for the Marketo Summit this year is the Fearless Marketer. And so they've been looking for video submissions for people to indicate why they or why someone they know should be on the Fearless 50 list. Brilliant. Not only because they're sort of crowdsourcing the information and they're asking people to get on video, but they're asking people to post those video on social and then tag the campaign, right? Tag the hashtag, right? So all of a sudden, there's a million people all over B2B talking about Marketo Summit and talking about being fearless.
What's the prize?
I think in this case, you get to be on the list, right? I think that, and what they're looking for is you think about this, like it's, Marketo's Marketo. It's the 800-pound gorilla. They've got, a conference that has transcended user conferences, that has become one of the most important B2B conferences of the year. And the idea that you as a Marketo user can be on a list that they're going to promote to 7,000 people at the conference, let alone everyone out in the social B2B sphere, that in and of itself is an incentive. It must be because of the volume of videos that I've seen published over the course of the last couple of weeks. Pretty impressive.
Awesome. Well, I guess the stepsister of contest is giveaways. What do you have?
Yeah,
giveaways?
I mean, this is just giving shit away, right? I don't know. Can I say shit on your podcast? I've now said it twice.
You can even say the C word and the F word if you really want.
Oh man, I'm not going that far. You know, so I had we had a little bit of a controversy for our podcast a few weeks ago. We had someone come on and they used the F word a few times, and we'd never really had that before. I don't know. 120 episodes in, it was the first time I think I really recognized that someone was, you know, doing some serious cussing on the podcast. And we had to decide: were we going to leave it in and then put like the little circle E when we post it up on the Apple Store, or were we going to edit it out and keep it a family show?
What'd you do?
And we kept it a family show. Yeah, and I'm not against. Clearly, I'm not against a little bit of cussing, but I don't know. I felt like it's a long story. We can get into another podcast. The conversation we had internally, but giveaways. I mean, literally, I have on my desk what I think is one of the smartest giveaways of the year. It is, you know, those daily calendars that are basically like little square tear sheets.
Sure.
You know, it used to be like, oh, here's the
Far Side.
Yeah, exactly. So I got one from Salesforce, and basically it's a quote. It's a sales sort of quote, a motivational quote every day. And what's brilliant is that this is totally going to sit on my desk for the rest of the year. And every day, like, they actually did a really nice job of curating questions. And then on Wednesday for Salesforce is called Sales Win Wednesday, and they've got a hashtag for it. And they're basically on Wednesdays in the calendar, there's sort of a question or an ask for you to go up on social and share something with hashtag Sales Win Wednesday. So A, this is a really, really cool marketing giveaway, and B, like, people want shit like this, right? And so, like, if you say, hey, the next 100 people to respond, we're going to mail you one of these, you know, new whatevers, or hey, we just come back from a trade show and we've got a few extra T-shirts. You want one? We'll send you one if you respond. So, like, little things like that. People like swag. It's amazing what kind of response you get.
Now there is a danger in giveaways that I've heard in the past that I'd like to get your take on is when people do like an iPad, completely nothing to do with the company whatsoever. You get a lot of engagement of not target audience, and it throws off your custom audiences that you're building. It throws stuff off, right? I mean, can you touch on that?
Say that one more time.
You know, I've seen, a danger or a pitfall of a giveaway is if it's like a TV or an iPad or something like that, because then you attract, you know, people who are wanting to win prizes versus like what you just mentioned with Salesforce. That's very congruent, right? Mm-hmm. It makes sense. It's in line with their company, right? And it's a small little thing. And you said, you know, it could be a T-shirt that's fun with a teeny tiny branding on it. And but like if you do like a completely off, non-congruent type of gift, you know, like just an iPad. I've heard that, hey, that's really dangerous to do because you're going to potentially get people who just want to win an iPad and they have nothing to do with your marketplace. Sure. Can you speak to that at all, or do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, that's always going to happen. I mean, there are always going to be people that game the contest. You know, when we've done research in the past, and sometimes we've said, hey, the first 100 people to fill out this questionnaire, we're going to send you a, you know, $5 Starbucks gift card or someone, you know, and we've had people get that, you know, or people see that on social or whatever, and they will, you know, they'll use 5 different email addresses to enter it 5 times and think they just got 25. So there's always people that are going to try to game those systems. Mm-hmm. Either you mitigate that by making it so that each individual person is just one entry into a giveaway. If you're giving away a, you know, 4K TV, you know, you can have 100 responses or 1,000 responses. You're still just giving away one TV. You can also designate who qualifies for the giveaway. You can put in the fine print, you know, must work at must be a marketer at a B2B company. I mean, you can make up your own rules for these things, right? And people that don't qualify might get pissed, and you run the risk of the impact of that. But you can still set your own rules on how you want to execute stuff like this.
Cool. All right. Crowdsourced content.
Yeah. So let's say you just finished the Marketo Summit, and you've got a list of people that were at the Marketo Summit. Like, you could say, hey, listen, we're about to put up a blog post, you know, that we're going to promote to our 90,000 newsletter subscribers and our 120,000 Twitter users, and we want to feature you in our blog post. And we just need you to answer one question with one sentence. What's the most important thing you took away from Marketo Summit? Right. So I'm kind of making this up, but like, okay, I'm not asking you to write me a blog post. I'm not asking you to actually even do a video. I'm asking you to write back with one sentence. Like that is an accessible thing that a lot of people do. And now if you get 50 responses, you have 50 sentences, which is a lot of content. That now every one of those people is going to scan to see themselves in that post. Is probably going to retweet it because they're in it. And they're going to send it to their family because they're in it. They're going to send it to their company because they're in it. So it's a way to get engagement, but then it's more than just that initial engagement. You're going to get like a multiplier effect once you get that content published as well.
Yeah, and that's a big one. Everyone put a star on that. And you don't just need to do it if you're like, Matt with his big reach and, entice people that way or from a Marketo conference. You can reach out to your client. If you're a small business, you can just reach out to your customers and ask them what's their favorite way, what's their favorite way to make their coffee in the morning, or what do they put in their coffee, right? And you could do all kinds of creative stuff. So it doesn't need to be like gargantuan and huge. It could be anything. But the fact that you're getting this crowdsourced content, it's super key to get engagement on the back end, because people will naturally send it out if they're included in it. And, side note on that, make sure you tell them that it went live, right? All right, group internal offers.
Can we, I don't know how much time we have left. Can we cherry pick a little bit here? On
well, you go ahead. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes left. So.
All right, yeah, so we're definitely going to run out of time.
I'll let you cherry pick.
We will, let's do a little tease/crockpot for our audience here. We've got the broader list. We're gonna miss some. If you want the whole list, either David will post it or I'll post it, but we'll make sure you guys get access to the whole list.
Absolutely.
So there's a couple pieces here that I want to talk about. Get the timing right is one of my favorites. Let me tell a quick story. We have a client that sells a back office product or back office software specifically for churches, to help churches sort of manage everything from Sunday and week-long giving to Sunday school check-in to all kinds of stuff, right? One of our main targets was an executive pastor that was, an ordained preaching pastor in most cases. And they're working on Sundays, right? And which means they're taking off Monday, they're taking off Friday. So the real, tactical question, what's the best day of the week to email a pastor? So what we did is we took an email, we took a topic and an offer that we knew had worked pretty well already in campaigns, and we designated a specific time of the day that we were going to send it. And the only variable we changed was which day of the week it went out. And we did, 7 days of the week. What do you think worked?
7 days of the week? No.
Well, so the question we were trying to answer was which day of the week was best. We got the best response rate from pastors, given that they Monday and Friday might not be good because they're taking it off, and so what's the day that works?
What would be my guess?
Yeah.
Well, they're busy probably Saturday prepping for Sunday. Maybe Sunday evening.
Yeah, so it's the day we almost didn't test. Like Sunday was by far the best response day for pastors. And we almost didn't test. We're like, well, they're busy. They're doing church. Well, they're at church a lot longer than we are on Sundays. Like they come early, or they're between services. They treat it like a work day. Yeah. And the rest of the administrative staff isn't there. Their parishioners aren't bugging them because they come to church and then go away. So they get work done, and they're more likely to engage. So I think getting the timing right on your campaigns, like we think about like what's going into it, what's the offer, what's our message. Well, sometimes just the email itself and when it shows up makes a big difference.
Let me add to that, and that's a great point. And we did it by accident, and it just made me like shake my head, like, oh my God. Like, why have I gotten into this like zone of just doing it the way we've been doing it for years, right? Because we did a lot of testing in the past, and then we decided on doing the Seed Blast for this one account Saturday morning with a thought. And not with a thought. I mean, we tested other days of the week, I guess, way back when, and it always changes. And something happened as a mistake, right? So we had to resend it out on Monday with Oops. And I don't know if it was the Oops that did it, but we got so much more engagement. I was like, okay, change to Monday mornings. And it was an accident, but what wasn't an accident, what was a mistake, is that we just got into a zone and we didn't retest it or over time and really look at it. And maybe back when we did it, maybe we even didn't test Monday mornings. We just assumed that, people are going to be busy. But I think the reality of what happened was people are getting their week just going, and maybe something intrigues them, and they decide to engage in an article first as they're just getting their mind going. And anything that came over the weekend, maybe I don't know, but it's going to be different. But bottom line is, 1,000,000% right with you on that. Test on that stuff, and don't assume anything because You can't assume at all in marketing.
But also use your intuition. You know, like one of my other favorite tactics is, you know, if you're working a trade show and the trade show is the second half of the week, you know, an immediate follow-up email doesn't have to wait until Monday, and you probably shouldn't send it on Friday because they're traveling back home and they're totally sort of crazy making, trying to reorient to their home world. Saturday mornings, man. You send an email Saturday morning, you got a prospect that's, you know, probably your customer that's sitting in front of the TV with their kids watching cartoons, they're drinking their coffee. They're catching up, but they're a little less stressed about it, and they're more likely to notice and pay attention to and engage with a new email coming in. So, you know, think about not just the nature of your prospect, but also the nature of their workflow. We see greater open rates on emails when we send them during that prospect's lunchtime. For a lot of prospects that are sitting at their desk working, they're not in meetings. You know, they may actually not even be working. They may be just, you know, sort of, you know, checking out headlines on ESPN. But if their alerts are on, they're more likely to see and engage with an email coming in. And you got to play the time zones if you're going to do that well. But it's worth it, you know, if you do it right.
Yeah, awesome. Cherry pick away. Why don't you pick two more?
Funky subject lines. I think this is, you know, I realize that in B2B sometimes we like to be really formal, you know, but buildings don't write checks, people do. And so I think, you know, getting someone's attention in a fun way. You don't want to do a bait and switch. I hate the fake forward, for instance, right? People
I hate that.
Fake forward, fake reply. Like, you're going to get a good open rate, but you're not going to get any trust or engagement past that.
Angers me.
But I saw an email the other day. I mean, there's a million people trying to market, you know, advice around GDPR right now, right? And one of my favorite subject lines from someone that had like a guide or something, it was just simply, WTF is GDPR. Right? And so it was, you know, you're not swearing in the subject line, but you're implying swearing to the point where someone's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I wish I could have been in the room or been the fly on the wall when they were discussing whether they were, you know, whoever the brand was willing to use WTF and whether that was a little too edgy or not, right?
Well, it means why the face, right?
Well, you know what, my
mom.
Yes, my mom actually until recently thought that it was, well, that's fantastic. So I was texting her. This is a couple years ago, right? And like, I mean, I'm getting old enough where there's I'm getting old enough now where there's all kinds of stuff the kids are doing that I don't understand.
Oh, God, it happened to me yesterday. Yep.
But I emailed her, I texted her something like there's something about the kids, like, you know, like the kids had done, one of the kids had done something really great, and she writes back WTF. I'm like, I don't think that means what you think it means.
That's the funniest thing I've heard in a while. Oh, my God, that is fantastic. All right. Oh, okay. All right. You got to pick one more.
So I'm going to do number 25 because it's a little controversial. And I don't think you can do it in like big, massive emails. But if you've gotten to the point where you've got a bit of relationship and a bit of trust with your customer, instead of sending an email, what if you send a meeting request? What if you were doing a webinar or doing something that aligned with the past content you've been engaging with? Maybe let's take GDPR, right? Let's say that, you know, you are promoting content around GDPR and you've noticed that a particular prospect has engaged with and really spent some time with your GDPR content. What if you took the bold step of inviting them to a GDPR roundtable with their peers facilitated by some privacy or some European Union expert? And instead of just sending an email to register, you just sent them the meeting request.
That's awesome.
Well, I can literally hear some of your readers cringing. Right?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, let's, you know, something's uncomfortable is good. So.
And look, if you've got 90,000 people on your email list, please do not send a meeting request to 90,000 people. There's going to be many of them that content is not qualified for. There's going to be many that are not ready. There's going to be many that don't know you, and if they don't have a relationship with you and don't trust you, getting a meeting request is going to seem way too forward. So this is an opportunity to, if you've segmented your list, think of this as, you know, back to kind of part of the beginning of our conversation, you know, teach, tailor, take control. If you've gotten to the point where you have identified insights, identified need with the prospect, customized it to them, maybe part of your take control and looking after their interests is to be a little more aggressive in getting them into a meeting that can help them further qualify a problem.
And meeting request one-on-one or meeting request for like a webinar discussion? One-on-one.
I would not do it for I think doing it for a demo might be a little forward depending on the relationship, but I'm thinking like another value-added request where, you're inviting them to a GDPR, sort of best practice session or sort of an executive briefing from a GDPR.
But one-on-one or one-to-many?
No, it's a group meeting. It'd be like a group thing where you've got multiple people on the meeting.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you take a quiz or you do this or that and you start to see some commonalities of things, and then, hey, you're just following up with, think about it, you're just following up with, make sure what you're following up with has value now.
Yeah.
So, and that's, you keep hearing that, and you're going to keep hearing that because it's not going to change. Whatever you do, make sure it brings value. Value can be in the form of education. It can be in the form of entertainment. It could be humorous. It could be heartfelt. It could be emotional, something that just, it could be a gift. It could be whatever. It could be a lower price. It could be this. It could be that. Whatever it is, it needs to bring value to your audience. So if you're doing this, it's just another way to get people into something else that you are continuously helping them out with, and it's a discussion about this other stuff. So, no, I don't cringe at all. The only thing I would cringe at is if it's, if it's not on the up and up, if it's not transparent, if it's not going to align, if it's a bait and switch. All those things make me cringe.
Mm-hmm.
But if another way to get a message out to allow me to do something more valuable absolutely does not make me cringe. So I hear you. All right, Matt, this was awesome. Yeah, and to the listeners, we will, list out everything and have some, dialogue written up around some of these other ideas as well. So Matt and I will be circulating that out. So never fear, you'll get into Matt's big brain for everything here. All right. How can people continue to learn from you, buddy?
Through great podcasts like this. You can check us out at HeinzMarketing.com is sort of our hub. We've got content, blog posts going up every day. You can find us on Twitter at Heinz Marketing. That's HEINZ Marketing, and I'm just Matt, MATT, at HeinzMarketing.com is my email.
Awesome. All right, man. Until next time.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the latest podcast. Feel free to go to magnificent.com/blog to see the show notes for this interview, as well as those from many other of the world's top marketing experts. Have a great day.